Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver Jalen Reagor will miss about 4 weeks of action with a partially torn labrum. It doesn't need surgery, but he is expected to miss about a month. Here to break it down is SI fantasy analyst Michael Fabiano and the editor of Eagle Maven, Ed Kracz. Ed, I'll start with you. The Eagles, we know they had a lot of injuries at the wide receiver position in 2019. They go out and draft Reagor in the first round of the 2020 NFL draft, and now they're promising rookies not going to play for the first couple of games of the year. What's that depth chart looking like now with this injury to the rookie?
Well, the Eagles really kind of carpet bombed the wide receiver position in the draft. Who's having a great camp is John Hightower, the receiver out of Boise State, was taken in the fifth round. Looks like he's a very polished route runner. He's beaten Darius Slay occasionally. So I suspect that he'll probably have a role week one and going forward until Reagor is ready. And even then, he still may have a role. But right now, Rager's expected to miss the month. Could be as little as 2 weeks, depending on how quickly that heals and what Rager's previous injury history is with that shoulder. But in the meantime, it looks like they're probably going to start with Deshaun Jackson, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, and Greg Ward in the slot.
And then that's assuming that Alshon Jeffrey, he's also expected to miss a bunch of games to the start of the year as well, right?
Yeah, Alshon hasn't done a whole lot in camp that I've seen, except play catch on the sideline. And even then, he's not really bending over to catch a ball or reaching too far, really taking it slow and easy. I don't suspect he'll have a role probably for the entire month of September. The Eagles could put him on IR, which means he would be out for the first 6 weeks. And I could see that being a very real possibility. If they keep him active, especially in the light of the Reagor situation, then they'll probably try to bring him back maybe in week 4, maybe as soon as week 3. But I don't see that happening. Alshon hasn't done a whole lot in camp, and he's 30 years old now, and he's going to need some time to get ready to play.
Babs, let's go back to the rookie, Jalen Reagor, out about 4 weeks of action. Two things for you. One, what do you do with him on your draft board if you haven't drafted yet? And the second part, if you already did draft and you drafted him, are you keeping him on your roster or are you dropping him and picking up someone else?
Well, to answer the first question, I would probably move Reagor down a few spots at wide receiver. He had been getting a lot of buzz in the fantasy industry, a guy who I've seen drafted as a wide receiver 3 in a 12-team league. That's a little bit too rich for my blood. I'd rather have him as a wide receiver 4, maybe in a smaller league, a wide receiver 5 at this point. Let's not forget, for as much hype as he's had, he's not a volume receiver. He's not going to be a guy who demands 10 targets a game. He's very comparative to his teammate Deshaun Jackson there in Philadelphia. If I've already drafted and I have him, well, hopefully your commissioner has increased the roster sizes, maybe added some injured spots. He is certainly not a player that I am dropping. Deshaun Jackson sees the biggest increase from a fantasy perspective in terms of value. Even though he's 33, the guy has really been blazing in camp. He's still got that speed. And then when you talk about J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, probably a late round flyer. Maybe John Hightower is worth a late round flyer. Same with Greg Ward. But let's also remember, Philadelphia runs a lot of 12 with Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. How many targets are available there in that pass attack? I don't think it's enough to feed all of those receivers. So what I would say is if you have Reagor, hold on to him. That's obvious. If you haven't drafted yet, try to get him as a wide receiver 4. And then Deshaun Jackson suddenly potentially becomes a wide receiver 3 for the first few weeks while Reagor is out of action.
You can get customized rankings and our award-winning player projections by going to si.com/fantasy and becoming a member of SI Fantasy Plus.